Hello there. Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up today on the program, Susan Crabtree is with us, RealClearPolitics White House reporter. We talked to her about Secret Service news, including Ronald Rowe's fiery testimony today, battling it out with members of Congress. Susan Crabtree will be here to talk about that. David Strom joins us at 4 o'clock. And we'll discuss Pete Hegseth with him and Carol Markowitz from the New York Post here at 5 o'clock. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. I start today by acknowledging the excellent Fisher House. This is the annual WMAL Fisher House Radiothon, supporting the men and women of the military and their families, our fallen heroes, our veterans. Just a great organization, and I can't thank you enough for your past support for the Fisher House, and I can't beg you enough for your ongoing support of the Fisher House. Last year alone, WMAL listeners contributed $413,000 to the Fisher House. This is an organization that has these homes right next to military medical centers and veterans hospitals where they basically set up a place for families to stay. It's a wonderful place for families to stay when they're away from their own homes. Perhaps they've traveled a great distance, and they stay there taken care of. Everything's completely taken care of by generous donations like you might make today. And they get a place to stay by their loved one who could be injured in all sorts of things, perhaps as a result of their injuries from war. In many cases in the past at the Fisher House. Maybe it was a result of injuries from some event that they didn't foresee, like so many injuries are. Or it could be that they're recovering from some sort of surgery that they require in order to bring them back to health. There are any number of events that could lead someone to being in one of these hospitals or needing one of these Fisher Houses. And they have just really, through the years, done amazing work. Since 1990, 99 of these Fisher Houses have been stood up and operate all around the world. 500,000 military families, veteran families, have been served. 12 million days of free lodging have been given out, and $610 million has been saved for all of those families. So it's a brilliant mission, and I can't be more grateful for being linked up with it. It's just so cool to be able to do this. As a guy who once, like you, was a listener to the programming here on this station, got to hear the Fisher House Radiothon each year and learn about the great work by listening. Now I've been able to learn about the great work by being with and near these people and seeing that they are angels on earth. So as I mentioned to you, last year listeners contributed $413,000. And as of this very moment today, so far, we are at $172,384 raised for the Fisher House. So this is where I ask for. I'd like for this program to be the program that just takes it way over the top, so that I can rub it in the faces of my co-hosts in a good-natured way on this fine station. So if you can help me be the most successful Fisher House supporting show on this entire network, I'd really appreciate that. The number to do that is 888-294-8560. That's 888-294-8560. Or you can do it online at WMAL.com/Fisher House. And we've got a lot of great guests coming up. We'll talk about the Fisher House and all the great work that it does. It's such an important project. So really happy to talk about that today with you. Additionally, I want to get into the news of what's going on with Pete Hegseth. As don't you feel like hour by hour, it's like, oh, Pete Hegseth is doing great. Oh, it's going to collapse. This whole thing's going to fall apart. We'll find out when we find out. But it does sound like if you listen to Pete Hegseth, that he's been talking to President Trump, and President Trump says, "Attaboy, you're doing well. Keep up, stay in the fight. Stay in the fight. We need you for the troops." President Trump seems to be on his side and holding on to this nomination, and that's a good thing. But we've now reached Brett Kavanaugh levels. Yesterday, you heard Pete Hegseth sit down with Megyn Kelly, and she asked him outright, "Do you think you're being Kavanaugh'd?" And here's how he answered that question.
Do you think you're being Kavanaugh'd right now?
I had a member not 45 minutes ago look me in the eye in private, just he and I, and say, that's what they're trying to do to you. That's what they're trying to do to you. That's their playbook. Get ready for more. And they're going to make it up, just like they have so far.
Okay, so he says that's what they're trying to do to you. Yes, it's a Kavanaugh situation where they come out with all these absurd allegations. That brings us to last night. The Washington Post runs a piece with the headline, Hegseth's history with alcohol shadows Pentagon selection. History with alcohol. Oh, do tell. Here's one of the anecdotes they share. Several years ago, during a St. Patrick's Day segment on Fox and Friends Weekend, support staff at the cable news network set up a display of beers for a holiday segment on the show. After the segment aired, meaning they weren't even on live television, Hegseth walked by the display table and drank each beer, according to two former colleagues who witnessed the incident and spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive episode. What a bunch of fainting goats. He drank the beer after the show was over. He drank the St. Patrick's Day beers on St. Patrick's Day after his work was concluded. Where's my fainting couch? The incident struck the colleagues as jarring for two reasons. One, the displayed drinks had been sitting out for hours and were stale and warm. Two, the show wraps up at 10 a.m., an early hour for alcohol consumption. Yeah, unless it's St. Patrick's Day. What is wrong with these people? Well, there's a lot of things. But haven't we reached the Brett Kavanaugh phase? Don't you think? It even has some of the same themes.
I drank beer with my friends. Almost everyone did. Sometimes I had too many beers. Sometimes others did. I liked beer. I still like beer. But I did not drink beer to the point of blacking out, and I never sexually assaulted anyone.
Oh, thank you for that. So Brett Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh wrote the script for how to respond to this, so Hegseth can take that up if he ever makes it to the hearing. Of course, the media trying to suffocate this entire nomination before he gets to the hearing. And it's not just the media. Let's be more explicit about this. It's Republican senators who don't want Pete Hegseth to have this job. That's what's going on here. As Joni Ernst is all but saying she is a complete no. She met with him yesterday. They had a very frank conversation. Here's what she told Fox and Friends this morning.
Okay, it doesn't sound on your answer that you've gotten to a yes. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. And if that is the case, it sounds to me as if the hearing will be critical for his nomination. Am I right about that?
I think you are right. I think for a number of our senators, they want to make sure that any allegations have been cleared.
So she's saying at this hour, I can't bring myself to support him. We'll see. We'll see. Of course, the rumor mill running very hot that Joni Ernst wants this job herself. So isn't that kind of a conflict of interest? That you're sitting there going, well, we'll see. And when she's actually campaigning to get the gig. And then Lindsey Graham, who was poo-pooing the whole Pete Hegseth thing earlier this week. Well, it's because you noticed that he went on Fox last night and tried to spin his way out of it.
I've known Pete for a long time. I served with him in Afghanistan. The people over there said nothing but great things about him. The allegations against Pete are all anonymous sources. I am not going to make any decision based on an anonymous source. If you're not willing to raise your hand under oath and make the accusation, it doesn't count. I've heard everything about all these people. None of it counts. No rumors, no innuendo.
But you were there for the Kavanaugh hearings.
I've seen this movie before.
I've seen. Oh, yeah. Now I'm standing on Pete Hegseth's side. Do you remember what he said like a day ago?
Articles are very disturbing. He, obviously has a chance to defend himself here, but some of this stuff is going to be difficult.
Okay, thanks a lot, Lindsey Graham. Yeah, that's not slippery or anything. All right, stay with us. We've got a lot to get to, but first, should we take this call? Do you want to do that? Okay, no, we'll do some WMAL traffic then, shall we? No. Okay, then we won't. We won't. I refuse to. Pete Hegseth, we'll get to it. Sorry, I'm throwing off the clock here. That's my fault. Everybody's looking at me going, what the hell are you doing? Sorry about that. All right, so Joni Ernst and Lindsey Graham rooting against the Pete Hegseth nomination, saying, no, We're not for it. They're saying it obviously behind the scenes, but in public, they're like, well, we'll see, maybe. It's crazy. It's crazy. And the fact that they're allowing, like, quote, again, air quotes, scandals like this to be we can't support him. He drank beers on St. Patrick's Day. What? What are you talking about? So do you know who Joni Ernst supported in the past? Merrick Garland and Lloyd Austin. That's who she voted for. And now she can't figure out whether or not she's going to support Pete Hegseth? Horse hockey. It's insane. And Lloyd Austin, you know everything, all the sins of Merrick Garland, but let me just concentrate on the SecDef position for a moment. Lloyd Austin, who is this guy? Lloyd Austin is a defense contractor who then got a job as Secretary of Defense and is now giving untold sums of money to his just parted from employer, Raytheon. So that is not a scandal? That conflict is not a scandal, that he can go directly from defense contractor to the guy who doles out the money to the very same defense contractor he came from. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just vote him in. No problem. And then what else happened with Lloyd Austin? Oh, that's right. Lloyd Austin would disappear for months on end, and nobody knew where he was. Nobody knew. And that's acceptable? Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth has made this commitment. Lethality, lethality, lethality. He is committed to protecting our troops and advancing the mission rather than whatever Lloyd Austin's doing. Love that. I love that. That he drank beer on St. Patrick's Day. Unbelievable. It's Fisher House, the Fisher House Radiothon here on WMAL. The Fisher House is just incredible. The work they do for the veterans and their families, just incredible. And that brings us to our guest, Jessica Allen, who joins us on the phone right now. Jessica, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate this. Jessica, your husband is a military veteran. Tell us about him. What happened to him and what led to you being connected with the Fisher House?
Sure. January 22nd, 2011, my husband was on a dismounted patrol in the Azari district of Afghanistan. And unfortunately, he took a one bad step and detonated a 40-pound improvised explosive device. Upon impact, he lost both of his legs. He lost his elbow and he had obtained a couple of other obvious injuries as well. From that point, he was flown from Afghanistan to Germany to D.C., and the girls and I were eventually reunited with him at the original Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and we stayed there for 2 years, and we reunited with him within a week of his injuries, and we began staying in a Fisher House shortly afterward. And my husband, unfortunately, was a part of the surge, so there were a whole lot of soldiers that were injured, and the Army could not accommodate us for housing. So the Fisher House stepped up, and our family healed in a Fisher House for months. My husband learned how to walk up the stairs again while we were there. We were able to make friendships that we still have today. It's kind of crazy to think about. It's been 13 years.
Yeah.
Our girls our oldest daughter's now a college graduate. She was in third grade when this went down. So it's kind of crazy to talk about like where we are now and where we were. But Fisher House has been an important part of our lives, and we have gone back and had to have additional treatments, and they have opened the doors for us and allowed us to stay. And they stay in touch with our family. We are so proud to be a Fisher House family. We proudly tell people about them all the time, and we're so thankful. We would not be where we are today if it wasn't for the assistance, the love, and just the blessing that is Fisher House.
So in any moment of chaos in someone's life, it's sometimes it's hard to know which pieces to pick up, what to do next. You know, where am I going to stay? There must be a million thoughts flying through your head as you're reckoning with the fact that your husband was just so grievously wounded at war. How much of a comfort is it to have Fisher House sort of step in and take care of a lot of the logistics of what it means to take care of your family?
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is the military families go to their loved ones. So, like, if you're a civilian and you're wounded, you're going to go home to heal. Well, the U.S. Army works opposite. We bring the family to heal, right? And so we are leaving everything. We may not have a toothbrush. We certainly do not have laundry supplies. And when you step into a Fisher House, you're going to find those things. There's going to be a toothbrush there. There's going to be all the things you need to do a load of laundry. There's going to be food in the pantry. There's going to be someone there that if you need help with your network, like you need to find someone who might have a connection to this, that, or the other, someone, either a Fisher House employee or a Fisher House guest, somebody's going to be there to help you navigate that. And it's incredible, because when I look back at my journey, I see how Fisher House was in front of us and we were following behind their steps. And they were thinking of things before we even thought about it. Like the laundry is a great example. Lord knows I was not thinking about doing laundry. That was the last thing on my list, right? And then eventually I ran out of clothes. So it was great to be able to have a place to go do laundry. It was just there waiting for me. And having the comforts of home so far away was just amazing.
There's another piece here, and perhaps you mentioned it, forgive me if you did, but there's a program called Hero Miles, which provides you with frequent flyer miles. These are usually, I think, donated frequent flyer miles that you can turn around and use, that Fisher House provides to you to be able to cover your air travel?
Yes. And for me, I am kind of an outlier here. I, needed to go back and forth between my husband and my kids. The girls were only 5 and 8 when he was injured, and you can imagine how severely injured he was, and it was not a conducive environment to bring children into.
Yes.
And so I flew back and forth every Wednesday between Nashville and D.C., and so it was just me by myself. It was now I could not even tell you how in the world I accomplished it, but I was young and spry, I guess.
Wow.
So I was on a plane every single Wednesday from January till May, flying between him and the girls, just making sure everything got done. I was so blessed. My mom was in Nashville. We were in Clarksville, Tennessee. So my mom and I would just trade places. I had it timed perfectly, thanks to Fisher House, that I would put the kids on a school bus, grab a plane, be with him by lunch, spend a week with him, feed him lunch again, jump on a plane, and be there by thanks to time changing. I was able to time travel. Okay, that's how this worked.
Amazing.
But I was able to get the kids off the bus the very next Wednesday, and we just made it work. I honestly cannot tell you how I did. I think it was just pure adrenaline and caffeine.
Amazing. And Jessica, finally, your husband's how's he doing? Okay now?
Yeah, he's doing well.
Good. That's good to
Thank
hear.
you for asking.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Jessica Allen, thank you for joining us. Really, such important stories to share, and I really am grateful that you shared yours. Thank you for your family service to this country.
Thank you so much for helping Fisher House.
Of course. That's Jessica Allen, who had to stay in a Fisher House. You heard her story. You can help people just like Jessica. It's 888-294-8560, 888-294-8560, or WMAL.com/Fisher House. The Radiothon continues. Hey, good afternoon to you. 336 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up today on the program, David Strom from Hot Air is here at 4 o'clock. And then from the New York Post, Carol Markowitz joins us at 5 o'clock. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. This is the Fisher House Radiothon. Thanks to your contributions, we are now at a grand total for the day of $173,322 raised to support the men and women of the military and their great families through the Fisher House. You can make your contributions to this very noble cause at 888-294-8560. Very friendly operators are standing by. That's 888-294-8560, or go online to WMAL.com/Fisher House. More details about the Fisher House coming. Wonderful organization. I want to tell you a little bit about a congressional hearing that took place today, though, that you should know about. The acting director of the Secret Service, a fellow called Ronald Rowe, he completely lost his composure today when he was testifying on Capitol Hill. As a frequent guest of this program, Congressman Pat Fallon had a few choice questions for him. Here's how that exchange went.
Special agent in charge of the detail. Were you the special agent in charge of the detail that day?
Actually, let me address this. Could you please, staff, leave that? Oh, no, leave that one up with the circle around me. Thank you. So actually, Congressman, what you're not seeing is the sack of the detail out of the picture's view. And that is the day where we remember the more than 3,000 people that have died on 9/11. I actually responded to Ground Zero.
Now, by the way, what they're responding to is there's a picture of Ronald Rowe standing at the 9/11 memorial service this past year in the midst of this huge crisis over why the heck is President Trump being shot at, and where's the Secret Service to stop that? Ronald Rowe just appears at this 9/11 memorial service, and Pat Fallon wants to know, were you there working, or was this a publicity stunt?
I was there going through the ashes of the World Trade Center. I was there at Fresh Kills.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you if you were the special agent in charge.
To show respect
You were not.
for a Secret
That's
Service
a bunch of
member
horse hockey.
that died on 9/11.
Oh, that you're trying to be.
Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes.
Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this.
You are, sir,
Gentlemen,
and you are out of line.
I would like to ask him a question.
Please.
You are out of line,
Congressman. Don't try to bully me. I am an elected member of Congress, and I'm asking you a serious question, and you are playing
politics. I am a public servant who has served this nation, and
you won't answer the question.
On our day, on our country's darkest day.
Committee will come to order. Committee will come to order.
I'm asking you serious questions for the American people, and they're very simple. They're not trick questions. Were you the special agent in charge that day?
No, I wasn't. I was there representing
Mr.
the
Chairman,
United States Secret Service, sir.
Mr. Fallon, your time's
did
expired.
not affect protective operations.
You know why you were there? Because you wanted to be visible, because you were auditioning for this job.
I was there to pay respect for a fallen member of this agency.
You endangered
You are
President
out of line,
Biden's life,
Congressman.
Vice President Harris's life, because you put those agents out of position.
Mr.
Did you have a
Chairman.
radio with you?
Mr. Fallon, your time has
Did you have a
expired.
weapon?
Mr.
No.
I did, sir, and you are out of line.
Mr. Chairman.
Finally, just say it, fellas. Just enough of the theatrics. Okay, joining us now to explain what we just heard, Susan Crabtree, the Real Clear Politics White House National Political Correspondent, is on the phone. Susan, great to have you back with us.
Thanks for having me, Vince.
Okay, so that was quite a moment. And what was Ronald Rowe even attempting to do there?
He was deflecting is what he was doing, because I had heard about this incident. There's a lot of resentment over it, that he moved. He actually wasn't, he was supposed to be there, but he wasn't supposed to be as close and in the center of the photo op, the ceremony by the President Biden, because he's not operational. So the head of the detail of both the presidential detail, Biden's detail, and Vice President Harris' detail should be very close to them. And in fact, they were, several rows away. And I had heard, just months ago, and I didn't report it because I was under a deluge of information at that point, that he orchestrated that Ron Rowe wanted himself in the photo op up close to the president, because he's basically auditioning for the director job. And at that point, he hadn't gone downhill as far as it did today. I feel like this one is that the outburst there was really out of control.
And the other piece of that is probably he wanted FaceTime with Biden in order to push that issue, because everyone values their time with the president, and if you get to stand right up close to him at a 9/11 event, perhaps you can bend his ear a little bit.
Correct. I heard he was networking at the event. He claims that he had his gun and his radio. That's because Pat Fallon asked him that. I am told afterwards that is very dubious, that Secret Service sources telling me he didn't have an earpiece in that day. He may have had his gun, but you can't tell that. But he certainly didn't have an earpiece, meaning he didn't have his radio. So if he lied, that's a problem, and they're not answering that question, my question to them. They responded right away with a response about the details of his service after 9/11, but they did not say whether he was operational. They keep saying that it did not hurt protection that day. Well, how do we know? Because we analyzed the exiting, the very slow exiting from the stage, and that sort of Keystone Cops moments where the woman agent couldn't holster her gun. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of criticism from that, from a wide variety of sources on Butler on July 13th at the Butler rally. So a few months later, instead of having the operational people closest to the president and vice president, he put himself there without an earpiece, so that you can't keep track of the threats if you don't have an earpiece in.
Yeah, you would think if you're going to have a Secret Service official close to the president, it would be for his protection. Okay, so I saw some of your tweets on this subject. There were other elements of his exchange with Pat Fallon that caught your attention as well, and Ronald Rowe. That involves what was going on at the Butler rally and the Iranian threat to Donald Trump. What can you tell us?
Yes. Well, this hearing was very, I thought it was very ho-hum, a kind of a regurgitation, and the members were being very deferential to Ron Rowe. And that flies in the face of what I'm hearing from the rank and file, that they believe he was part of the problem and got promoted, that he was a part of the denials of the repeated denials from the top leadership at the Secret Service of extra security for Donald Trump for nearly 2 years. And then he got a promotion out of it. And they're furious about that. And they were not, none of the members of, until Pat Fallon had his questioning, did they bring that up. So Pat Fallon must have gotten him a little bit on edge, because he was asking, so you're the second most senior after Kimberly Cheadle, who resigned after her testimony. He's the second most senior. Why did he know about the Iranian threat? He refused to say. He said in a classified statement he can't say that. Well, that is ridiculous, because it has been confirmed over and over and over again that there is an Iranian threat against Donald Trump, and the FBI has arrested people and charged them. So to deny that he just didn't want to say that he knew, because he knew where the questions were heading, that he did not authorize a counter-surveillance unit. He didn't authorize a full counter-assault team, which is like a special operators. They're the most elite team in the Secret Service for that Butler rally, despite knowing that there was a very tangible, distinct Iranian threat against the president. So he didn't like that line of questioning, and that came just before this. But I thought it was softball up until that moment.
Yeah.
And then you had the Secret Service.
It's so disheartening to see that. This guy deserves all the scrutiny in the world. And is it true in the Secret Service, usually when we talk about the deputy secretary or the deputy director of an agency, usually they're the guys handling most of the day-to-day operations of the organization, right?
Yes, and in this case, Mike Platty, who was the head of the protective operations, which was the one that technically denied the extra security, he's retiring now. He's out the door. But I have heard from numerous sources that all of those three of those people, Kimberly Cheadle, Ron Rowe, they all had discussions about treating Donald Trump as a former president that didn't deserve all of the assets that I just talked about, that a president would receive, or someone under imminent threat like he was. So he was involved in all of those decisions. And in fact, he's the one that instituted the decision to not authorize anything for a former president before. This is when he was in that role that Mike Platty took over. So he's involved, and he's told me he's not involved. He's told members of Congress that he's not involved in those decisions. But that's not what I'm hearing. And they need to really answer those questions, and they will not. They will not answer those questions for me.
No. Okay. Well, please keep asking them. I know you will. Thank you so much for your time, as always, today. Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Vince.
Of course, always. Yes, indeed. The Fisher House, which takes care of American veterans, American troops, their families, including the families of the fallen. They're just a wonderful, wonderful organization that you can support. Please do. We do this each year on WMAL. Asking you to help the Fisher House out, 888-294-8560. Let's speak now to Jeralyn Ditlevson, who joins us on the phone. Jeralyn, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us.
Really appreciate that. Okay, so I want to find out about your experience with the Fisher House as we talk to each of these wonderful guests today. You are a caregiver to your husband?
Yes, I am.
Tell me about your husband and what brought you into contact with the Fisher House.
So January of last year, my husband had a massive stroke while still on active duty Army, and he was medevaced from Oklahoma to San Antonio, and the Fisher House opened the doors for us, and we were able to stay there for 8 months while he was getting treatment.
Wow. So you get there. How did you find out about the Fisher House? Did you even know there was a Fisher House there at the time?
I did know about a Fisher House. I was stationed at Fort Sam during the '06 to '08 deployment for First Cav. So I worked hand in hand with getting families situated there.
Oh.
So I knew about them, but I didn't realize that I would, at one point in my life, actually need them
Yes.
for when my husband got ill. So it was, full circle of working with them and then coming back and actually having to use them in our time of crisis.
What was that like, being at the Fisher House? How did that affect the process for you?
It was actually so great. We were able to, I didn't have to worry about where I was staying at night, why he was inpatient, and when he got discharged, they were able to just facilitate a room and also somewhere to cook rather than eating out all the time. So it was great in that aspect, and it just helped us financially, mentally, spiritually, to connect with other people in a time of crisis as well.
These Fisher houses are kind of a unique setup, because you've got the rooms, which are well appointed, nice rooms, and then you've got the kind of a kitchen and living room area that's shared among the residents of the Fisher House, right?
Right. Yeah. So we made really, really good friends with other families that were there and service members. So we would have like nightly dinners together, cook together, and then just sit down and eat together, watch movies together, just to get your mind off of the treatment that your significant other or yourself is going through.
And how long did you say? How long did you have to be with the Fisher House?
I was in a Fisher House for 8 months.
Wow, 8 months. That's a lot of time to be away from home. So it's got to be a really big deal to have a place that you don't have to. I mean, it would cost a tremendous amount of money, a lot of money that most of us don't have, to spend 8 months in a hotel.
Right. Oh, absolutely. When I said financially, they really helped me out, because I didn't have to worry about finding a room somewhere or, getting another house while I was there, because we still had our home in Oklahoma that we were maintaining as well during this whole thing.
Wow. Okay, so tell me about your husband now. How's he doing?
Oh, my husband is doing great now. He is still on his road to recovery. He is currently training. He competed in what the DoD has as the DoD Warrior Games. So it's kind of like the Paralympics for the military. And so he competes Paralympic style, and he competed for Team Army for 24, and he's getting ready to gear up to try out for 25 so that he can compete again and hopefully make it to Invictus in 27.
What is his sport?
It's his sport. He's got a few. He does indoor rowing, swimming, shot put, discus, and air rifle.
Wow, that's pretty good. Pretty good range of sports. And do I understand this correctly? I'm looking at my notes. He's breaking records for his age group in all of those?
Oh, yeah. He well, I call him old man because he's kind of old. He's older than me. But, he's going to be 51 next week. Sorry, my dog is barking.
That's okay.
He's
We like
dogs.
dogs.
51 next week. So he goes out and competes against guys about his age or even younger, and he tries to beat them.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
he's very competitive.
The Fisher House, big supporter of the Warrior Games. That's so cool. I love that. Thank you. Hey, Jeralyn, I'm so appreciative of you and your family, and thank you for helping us tell the story of the Fisher House. I just really want to get these stories out there, and you did a marvelous job today for helping us do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Of course. There you have Jeralyn Ditlevson. Thank you for her time today. And if you want to help people like Jeralyn and their wonderful families, give them a place to stay. Who can afford to stay in a hotel for 8 months? The Fisher House is there to help. The Fisher House is there to help, and that's who we're helping today. 888-294-8560, 888-294-8560, or online at WMAL.com/Fisher House. Still ahead on the program, David Strum will join us from Hot Air. We'll talk about the smear campaign against Pete Hegseth. We've reached the I like beer phase.